on Zoom, online. It has a different kind of feel. The atmospherics are much better, and therefore leaders could connect. And of course, what was very important, what was happening on the sidelines, because let's not forget, first of all, that the General Assembly is a forum for rhetoric. It is a forum where you have often vast numbers of resolutions that are passed that have little relevance or connection with reality. So symbolism becomes more important. And this is what leads us to a situation where you have to kind of look to see what is behind the rhetoric. What do the leaders really project? What are the key elements? And clearly, there were concerns about COVID, about climate change, about the economy.
I was just going to ask you about that because really what I heard over and over again in terms of themes, COVID and climate change, these are twin invisible threats all the countries are facing around the world.
Yes, and all the leaders, including Mr. Biden and Xi Jinping, talked about it. Mr. Biden spent a good deal of time on this, and this was his first meeting as President of the United States. He wanted to leave an impression of strength. This is after the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, and he wound up, frankly, piling platitudes on cliches. He would say things such as, we want to lead not just by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. So these tired kind of phrases. And he talked about climate change, about the United States providing vaccines. But the problem is he can't get his program through Congress, or at least not so far. He didn't talk about the supply chain problems worldwide that is affecting the U.S. and other economies. So we can see that underneath this kind of rhetoric, where Mr. Biden says, look, we are back, there are all sorts of problems. And I think this was not the only case. We see that in the case of other leaders as well, who are sending messages both that were clear or blatant and sometimes subtle.
Let me ask you one more question, if you can respond quickly. You said you got to look beyond the rhetoric. One of the things he said was, we're not seeking a new Cold War. What do we read into that?
Obviously, Biden wants this to be a new era, one of reassurance, where the United States would lead, but not intimidate, where the United States would participate, but also listen. And this was, of course, welcomed by the international community. But in international relations, what is essential is credibility. And the credibility of the Biden administration and of the United States has been badly damaged as a result of Afghanistan and of generally feckless international policies run by this administration. Now, when you look at Xi Jinping, he also sent certain messages. And what Xi Jinping was doing was not just talking about China providing for COVID vaccines, manufacturing perhaps as many as 2 billion by the end of this year, and providing some 100 million plus to developing countries, but also in a very subtle way challenging the United States, saying that there has to be mutual respect and multilateralism. And that is kind of code for suggesting to the United States that China is not accepting American primacy. And that was an important message.